It's only been within the last couple of years that I realized the importance of sleep in the wellness plan. And most people, when you talk about wellness, they're going to give you the standard diet and exercise, But if you're only talking about diet and exercise, then you're missing the third leg of the stool. As Ryan said, you spend a third of your life asleep. So if you're only talking diet and exercise, what about that other third of your life that you're asleep? And I think we'll discover today that that third of your life really affects everything. And it's all kind of intertwined, as we'll get into in a second. So we're going to have some fun today. I may have some questions for you guys because I kind of want to get your opinions on some of this. And we're going to have a little bit of time maybe at the end for Q&A. I'm going to give away one of my books, and we're going to have some stuff at the end. But let's jump right in with a pretty simple question. I just want to ask this. Would you like a 16% raise? I mean, what if I came in here like Oprah and I was like, and you get a 16% raise, and you get a 16% raise. In fact, under everybody's chair today is a card that entitles you to a 16% raise from Research Now. And I know the HR department's like, what? Nobody told me this. Well, I think there wouldn't be anybody in here today that if I said, I'm going to offer you right now on this table a document that says you get a 16% raise starting with your next paycheck, I don't think there's anybody in here today that would be like, I'm pretty happy with what, I think it's fair what they pay me, I don't really need 16%. You realize that 16%, that's actually quite a bit. In fact, that might be equivalent to you getting a separate certification or another degree. What am I talking about, a 16% raise here? Well, there's some research that just came out pretty recently that says that people who sleep better earn more money. And that's nice. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe you earn a little bit more money, because you sleep better, you work a little bit better. But actually, the findings are stunning. The findings say that with one more hour of quality sleep per week over a year, the benefits of that financially, and I'm not talking about these sort of nebulous pie in the sky benefits. I'm talking about cold hard cash that people who get an hour more of sleep a week and a quality hour make on average 16% more over the year. So if nothing else, congratulations on being in the right place at the right time if all you're interested in is making a little more money. Because you've come to the right place, because we're going to talk about that. But I think we all here understand, and we'd probably agree, that money's great. And to a point, money can, in a way, buy happiness. It's nice to be able to pay your bills and that kind of thing. But how much better is it to go to sleep at night, wake up in the morning, and feel like you actually went to sleep? How much better is it to live your life in a way where you feel energized during the day, and you feel like you could get the things done, and not only just getting by, but about getting ahead, and about going from just good to truly great at what you do? That's what we're going to talk about today. And I think part of that key is sleep. So let's jump right in. Anybody feel like this guy sometimes? I know I do. On a night when you don't get enough sleep, this is how you look in the morning. And don't you love it when people just remind you of that? Wow, you look really tired. You're like, yeah, thanks. Thanks for noticing. And those bags under your eyes, what happened? Wow, did you have a good night last night? Actually, it wasn't a good night. Without enough sleep, we all become tall 2-year-olds. Anybody deal with 2-year-olds, they've always got something going on. And without enough sleep, we're all just basically 2-year-old adults. So what does sleep do for us? And that's kind of the big mystery. What is it? Why do we sleep? And some of us are like, it'd be awesome if we didn't have to sleep. We have that extra time. Some of us are like, look, I could just sleep all day. That's all I'd rather do. Just hang out at home, watch TV, and then go back to sleep, and I'd be good. So why do we do it? Sleep's very important on 3 levels: physical, mental, and emotional. So on the physical side, this is the simplest part. It gets a little more complicated on the mental and emotional, but from a physical level, what we do when we sleep is that our muscles are repaired, our tissues are repaired, protein is synthesized, and our hormones are regulated in our body. We are very specialized and unique machines. And I don't want to get too philosophical here, but just from a biological perspective, we're complicated machines. And I'm going to throw out something else here. We haven't changed much since we became humans, all right? Our society has evolved at a much faster rate than our bodies have evolved. And in fact, in the 100,000 years or so that we've been actual humans, we haven't changed too much. I mean, we've lost a few things, like I guess we don't really have our appendixes the way we used to or something like that. Little changes have happened, but essentially our bodies as human beings are very similar to the way they were when we were out on the plains chasing buffalo and that kind of thing years ago. But our society has changed at a rapid pace. Do you know they didn't used to have sleep disorders 100 years ago, 200 years ago? It was very rare to have sleep disorders. In fact, prior to electricity, there's hardly any record of anybody having trouble sleeping. Why is that? Well, we just went to sleep when the sun went down. And then when the sun came up again, we got up. Nowadays, it's the opposite of that. Now we got everything to keep us awake and to interrupt that natural flow that's built into our DNA. Sleep is part of what makes not just humans, but all animals, even some plants kind of sleep in a way. So we're working on the physical side. If you need, your body needs to grow, your body needs to flush out chemicals, bring in the good stuff, take out the bad stuff. That happens on the physical side while you're asleep. What about mentally? Anybody feel like if they don't get enough sleep, they can barely remember their name, much less how to do their job well? Memory retention. You ever you've gone through a period of time where you didn't sleep very long, and all of a sudden you realize my memory is not what it was. My ability to calculate and to remember things and to figure out problems and to solve problems is limited when I limit my quality sleep. Neurobyproduct removal. This is one of the hugest things on here. This is like the latest cutting edge research says that there is neurobyproduct removal. You know how you take out the trash at home once a week, once every other couple of days, whatever you do, where you take the trash, you put it in a bag, you take it out, and you put it wherever the garbage is. Did you know your brain does that on a daily basis, but your brain doesn't do that while you're awake? See, your brain is, while you're awake, it's busy doing other things. It's busy communicating, it's busy thinking. But the minute you go to sleep, you begin to go into a cycle in which your brain says, okay, time to take out the trash. And there is neurobyproducts being removed from your brain only while you're asleep and only when you're in the deepest part of sleep, which is called REM sleep. So if you're depriving yourself of that sleep element, of that sleep quality sleep time, you're depriving your brain of its own ability to remove neurobyproducts. And the latest research has shown that there is a direct link between poor quality sleep and dementia and Alzheimer's. Because your brain builds up those chemicals, those neurobyproducts, and if it's not able to flush it out through sleep, they just kind of build up. They just kind of stay there. You definitely don't want that to happen. Okay, so the neurobyproduct removal. What about emotions? You ever have a dream about somebody? Your significant other? You wake up and you're mad at them. You look over at them, you're like, I can't believe you did that. And you're like, what did I do? I was asleep. You're like, you know what you did. See, our dreams and our emotions are processed while we're asleep. My computer's a piece of junk, okay? And my computer is kind of on its last leg, as April just discovered a minute ago, as it just shut off and did the blue screen of death for no reason. What probably needs to happen is I need to do a defragmentation on my hard drive on that computer, among other things, besides just kicking it out the door. Our brain does that. That's how we separate our emotions. That's how we process emotions. A lot of that happens. Our hormones, stress management happens on an emotional level while we're asleep. So I think just this little chart can make the case that sleep is important. So we got the money side. Why do you think you make more money sleeping better? I don't know. Why do you think? I mean, what are your thoughts on the money thing? Why do you think people that sleep better make more money? Okay, so you perform better at what you do, right? What else? Concentration. Oh, your concentration. That's huge. Your ability to concentrate just increases geometrically based on your rest. That's good. Do you think other people notice when you sleep better? You think maybe your boss might notice? Think your boss might notice when you don't sleep well? I think that's always the case. He or she is always looking for that kind of, look at her. I don't know if she slept well tonight. I don't know what happened. And you know that maybe there's some subliminal stuff to that too. And I think Ryan would agree this applies to the whole wellness concept in general. And this is why wellness is so important, is because it affects everything. But we're going to focus on sleep today, so let's move on. The big question is how much? You know, that's the number one question. If I was to open it up to questions right now and say, what about how much sleep? The first question I would get, how much sleep do I need? I don't know. It varies. Varies on how old you are. So based on this, you know, you can look, as we're younger, when we're younger, we need more sleep. Once we get to be our age, and I'd say most people in here are in this range. There may be a few people younger in here. But in general, we're looking at 7 to 9 hours. But not just 7 to 9 hours, 7 to 9 quality hours. But be careful about this 9-hour thing. Because there's some interesting research that shows that sleeping longer may actually have a stroke risk. In fact, people that sleep 9 hours or more are 50% more likely statistically to have a stroke. And they're not quite sure why that is yet. So there's some other reasons for that. But just, you know, just for the sake of argument, let's go ahead and try to aim for that 7 to 9 hours a night. 8 hours is usually kind of the rule of thumb. But what about our what we've talked about last time? What about this whole weight issue? Did you know that there's a connection between weight and sleep? And it all comes back to this quality versus quantity. What we're looking for is the big bird. We want the big bird, not necessarily the little bunch of little birds, right? We want the big bird in terms of quality, not necessarily quantity. But quantity can be important. Obviously, if you're only getting 3 hours, it doesn't matter if those are 3 quality hours. But, like I said, your sleep is affecting your weight. Now, why is that? There's 2 reasons. It's real simple, actually, when you break it down like this. Fatigue and hormones. So, fatigue is this guy. You guys ever go to the gym and feel like this? You get there and you're just kind of like, oh man. You get there, and then you go, maybe if I just kind of walk around, you know, will I lose a little weight if I just kind of look at other people exercising, or maybe if I just kind of walk, and then you kind of get discouraged, and you look like this guy, and you're like, oh man, and then you give up, and then you get sad, and you're depressed, and it's a whole cycle. But did you know that your sleep is causing you, in a way, to be like this guy? Because I think we know if you're not sleeping well, the last thing you want to do is get up early in the morning. Get up at 5 and go run. And the last thing you want to do when you get home from work is go to the gym. So just on the basic fatigue side of things, sleep affects your ability to lose weight and causes you to gain weight. I think everybody has heard lately that statistically a huge problem in the United States has to do with a sedentary lifestyle. Well, I think, and this is something that they're not really talking about, that sedentary lifestyle is not necessarily just the fault of us being lazy. Because there's plenty of people that's like, oh, well, everybody's just lazy, you know, they don't want to work out. Maybe they can't work out because they're so fatigued, because they're not sleeping well. They're not getting that restoration at night. And I'm not saying this to be an excuse for you. I don't want you to go out of here. The thing I got out of that seminar was he said, I don't need to work out because I'm tired. That's not what I want you to have as the takeaway here today, because there's a solution to it, and we'll get to that. But the fatigue is a big deal. So if you're not sleeping well, you're going to be tired, you're not going to go to the gym, you're not going to exercise. Simple issue there, right? But it gets a little complicated when we start talking about hormones. And there's dozens of different types of hormones, and I'm not going to bore you by just going down the list, but I'm going to give you a few hormones that are key to your sleep and explain what they do, drop a little science on you today, talk about what these hormones do, how we can increase them, and then I'm going to talk about some sleep tips, and then I'm going to end with talk about some food, the good food and the bad food that's going to help you sleep versus not sleep, and then lastly I'm going to talk a little bit about sleep disorders. So I'm going to buzz through this pretty quickly, so try to stay with me on this. And like I said, I'll try not to get too boring with this. Cortisol is huge. Cortisol is a stress hormone. Cortisol is increased in your body when you're under stress of any kind. Now, this was very helpful back in the day when we were chasing around the buffalo, okay? When the stress came into our village and we realized, hey, the buffalo aren't going to be around, we got to go out and run after them and chase them down. That was good for us because what it did was it causes our body to convert muscle to energy. So then we said, okay, we have this muscle and we're going to convert it to energy because we have to have the energy to go chase the buffalo. So it's part of what we do, and it's going to cause an accumulation of fat. So we're going to take all the extra calories that we can find as a buffalo hunter, and we're going to move them right into our center of mass, and we're going to hold on to them. That wasn't a problem back then because there was barely enough calories to go around to begin with. Nowadays, calories are very easy to find. So if you are under stress, you've heard of stress eating? Well, it gets worse than that, because not only are you more inclined to eat, but your body is more inclined to store your calories as fat. And if you just want to just keep going down this rabbit hole, I'll tell you, it causes an accumulation of visceral fat. What's the difference between subcutaneous versus visceral fat? What's subcutaneous fat? Oh, y'all know this one. Do what?
Below your skin.
Right, exactly. It's below your skin. It's the kind that we don't really like because it's like, it kind of makes us look not as good as we want to, whatever. That's not the dangerous part. The dangerous part is the fat that is under your abdominal muscles. Because this fat and an accumulation of visceral fat influences the operation of our vital organs. Okay? This is why we have heart disease, accumulations of fat deposits around our heart, our lungs, our stomach, our liver, all that stuff. And that's all because of cortisol. Not only because of cortisol, but cortisol is caused by stress. Lack of sleep causes stress. Therefore, do the math, lack of sleep actually causes you to gain weight in that department. How else? Triggers a hunger response, makes you more hungry. Now, this chemical ghrelin goes up. So, cortisol goes up, ghrelin goes up. Ghrelin is a chemical hormone that tells the brain it's time to eat. You ever wake up in the night, want one of these burgers? Want some ice cream? That's because of ghrelin. So you're not sleeping well, so your body's saying, okay, let's trigger this response. Maybe we just need to eat more. Your body starts to eat, you eat more, you wake up hungry in the night. How about this one? Leptin is the opposite of ghrelin. Leptin is the hormone that tells your brain it's time to stop eating. You're like, man, is there any good news here? Because what you're telling me is if I'm having problems sleeping, I got cortisol going crazy on the stress hormone. It's making me fat. I've got ghrelin, which is telling me to eat more. I've got leptin, which is a chemical that's supposed to tell me to stop eating, and it's going down. It's like 3 whammies in a row on this. Where's the good news? I'll get to that. Lastly, we got human growth hormone. Now, you hear this about with bodybuilders, they're trying to build muscle. That's good. You want to build muscle. And Ryan will tell you that the stronger your muscles are, the more calories you'll burn. And this is why, as fitness guys, we're all about lifting weights. And no, ladies, you're not going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger if you start lifting weights. It doesn't work that way. You don't have a lot of testosterone. It's not going to happen, okay? But what will happen is if you start to lift weights and use some resistance exercise, your body will begin to burn calories. However, if your growth hormone is going down, what's it doing? It's causing less muscle production, which is the opposite of what you want. Slower your metabolism. It slows your metabolism down, which we don't want that to happen. Slower healing. So if you get an injury, the doctor says go rest. This prohibits your healing. We don't want that. So now the good news. What can we do about this? We've established the problem. The problem is sleep is causing us to make less money. Sleep is causing us to be unhappy. It's causing us to have difficulties at work. And to top it all off, it's causing us to have problems on our fitness because we're not losing weight, we're gaining weight because of our lack of sleep. So what do we do about it? All right, I've broken this down into the top 5. Top 5 sleep tips. And I've actually got a few more I'm going to tell you about. There's a whole site that we put together that's got 15 tips, but I've broken it down to the top 5 just for the sake of time. So number 5, stick to a sleep schedule. This is exactly what Ryan said earlier. Go to sleep at the same time every night, even on the weekends. And that's where they get you. You're like, but the weekends, gotta stay up a little bit later, hang out, have some fun, sleep in, 10 o'clock, 11, whenever. Get up when I want. Hey, maybe Saturday night, same thing. Hit the town, stay out. What happens when Monday comes around? All of a sudden, now you got to get back up. You guys ever travel internationally? What's that phenomenon called when you travel internationally across jet lag, right? Did you know your body adapts so quickly that actually what's happening is on Monday, what you're feeling is jet lag from sleeping in on Friday or in on Saturday, Friday and Saturday. And you're like, oh, okay. So maybe it's a trade-off for you. I don't know. It's up to you. I found that going to sleep, sticking to a sleep schedule, even on weekends, is very helpful. Your body likes routine. Your body likes a schedule. Number 2 is maintain a quiet, dark, cool environment. I always think bats. You know bats, right? Bats like it quiet, dark, cool. Bats don't have sleep disorders. They don't have any problem with it. So maybe we can learn from the bats. Turn your air conditioning. In Texas, it's already 105 degrees anyway at 9 o'clock at night, whatever. You're probably going to have the air conditioner. Go ahead and turn it a few degrees, make it a little bit cooler. You'll be more comfortable, you'll sleep better, and you'll burn a few more calories to boot. Dark. We are conditioned, back to the whole buffalo hunting thing. We are conditioned to sleep in darkness. We're not conditioned to sleep with a bunch of lights on. So I know we like to have our little, you got your little, Batman nightlight or whatever, but hey, try to shut that off. I say that because I would be the person in here that would have a Batman nightlight, but turn the lights off, try to get it as dark as you can, and as quiet as you can. And some people, there's always somebody, oh, what about music? I like put on my radio, jam all night, while I'm sleeping. I have to sleep with the TV on. You're doing yourself a disservice because you're using a part of your brain. A part of your brain is paying attention to that stuff. See, part of your brain is listening to the radio even while you're asleep. That's kind of weird, but it's exactly what's happening. A part of your brain is listening to what's happening on the television even if you think you're asleep. And it's prohibiting you from getting good sleep. I'd recommend getting quiet. Getting the place quiet. If nothing else, go for something like white noise, right? I have a little app on my phone that plays rain. A little sound of rain just knocks me out every time. I love it. Simple. My brain is not paying attention to it because it's white noise. There's no lyrics. There's no music. Basically quiet. Lights are off. Nice and cool. Simple. Oh, you guys are going to run me out of here on a rail for saying this. I thought about bumping this one up to number 1, but I'm going to leave it at number 3 right now. Turn off all your screens an hour before bed. All of your screens. What screens am I talking about? Your phone, your TV, your laptop, your iPad, anything that has a digital screen. There's a lot of reasons for this, and a lot of cool research is pointing out this is causing a whole generation of sleep disorders. Notice that your kids are having trouble sleeping? That didn't used to be the case. Kids used to just go right to sleep. This generation of children is having real problems with sleep, and I think we've just made the case that these problems will continue to snowball, and what affects you at work is going to affect them at school. What affects them in elementary school is going to set the pace for what happens to them in junior high, high school, and college. And if your kids are having sleep disorders because they're playing around on their Xbox at night, guess what maybe we need to do? Maybe we need to shut it off and sit down with a book or something. And I'm not here to tell you how to be a parent. I'm just telling you from the science that's available, what it's saying is that the digital screens that are out there are emitting a type of light, a frequency of light that is very similar to light that comes from the sun and the moon. And our bodies are triggered to wake up by sunlight. And so if we're exposing our eyes and our brain right before bed to that blue tinted light, then we're just keeping ourselves awake. Not to mention the stress of emails from work, text messages. Every time you get a text message, your body emits a little chemical. That chemical is a stimulant. It keeps you awake. This part may take the most discipline, but just turn everything off an hour before bed. Read a normal book with a normal light, or do something else. See if you can do that. See if it helps you. Watch the diet, and I'm going to give you some examples in just a second about eat this, not that when it comes to sleep. But lastly, exercise daily. I know. Thank you. Thank you, Ryan, for that one person applauding. Now, like I said, I'm a fitness guy. I like to work out. But here's the thing. Your body... Let's take the journey back to the Buffalo guys, okay? I keep using them as an example. Those dudes and ladies did not just sit around. There was no sedentary lifestyle. You have a sedentary lifestyle out on the plains and you die, okay? So they were always exercising. Our body is made to move. And as we move, our body is conditioned to go, okay, we move during the day, we stop moving at night, and if that doesn't happen in that order, now we have a problem. So exercise daily. That's the number one tip that I could tell anybody is if you're having trouble sleeping, if you're having any kind of issues with insomnia, go work out in the morning. Now, when should you work out? I don't know. That's up to you. I'm not a morning guy. I don't do the 5 a.m. thing. I like to work out in the evening. Separate it from the time you go to bed. So don't work out right before you go to sleep because you're going to have all that adrenaline. It's going to cause some issues there. Definitely find time to work out, and I'm talking about how many minutes a day, Ryan? What are we talking about? Minimum. Yeah, what do you think? 30 minutes a day. He's going to let you off the hook there. He says 30 to 60. Let's go with 30. For those of us who don't do anything, let's say 30 minutes a day, and I'm not talking about walking to the cooler, walking to the stairs, walking to the printer, because a lot of people will be like, look, my Fitbit says I walked 1,000 steps today because I walked around the office. Come on, let's get real here. Exercise means increasing your what? Heart rate significantly for 30 minutes a day. Now, the good news is it doesn't just have to be 30 minutes at once. You could do 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening, 10 minutes whenever, and it has a cumulative effect. I say go for the hour if you can, 30 minutes. If you've got children, let's go with 60. Okay? Let's get those kids out and doing something besides playing their Xbox, okay? And I like Xbox. Don't get me wrong. I'm not an Xbox hater or anything like that. I just do like exercise, and I know it has more benefits for you, for me. About a year ago, I had a choice. My job, I made a little extra money, and I said, you know what? I could go get an Xbox One, or I could get a bike. And I wasn't dating anybody at the time, and I was like, let's see, which one of these is going to help my dating life the most? And I'm like, yeah, getting an Xbox is not going to help my dating life, nor my professional life, nor my physical life. So let's go with the bike. I got the bike. And now I'm dating someone, so, who knows? Maybe it works. Exercise daily. Okay, let's move on, and let's talk about food. This is some fun stuff here. This may surprise you. I like to do the bad news first, then the good news, okay? So let's go bad news first, then the good news. We'll end on a good note. Less sugar. You're like, that's not good news. That's the opposite of good news because I like sugar. Everybody likes sugar. We're conditioned to like sugar. Again, back to the cave people, they didn't even have sugar, okay? Sugar has only been part of our diet for like 100 years because prior to that, we're like, sugar just wasn't a thing. We just didn't have it. It was a special thing. It was expensive. It was hard to come by. Nowadays, it's like sugar's in everything. Reduce the sugar. It's going to help you lose weight, obviously, but it's also going to help you sleep better. Sugar creates that carbohydrate response, immediate quick energy. That's not what we need to sleep. Less sugar, less caffeine. Oh, no. You're like, hey, Brandon, you look kind of caffeinated. Well, you're right. I am a little caffeinated today. But I stopped. I like caffeine. I have no problem with it. However, I stopped drinking caffeine at 3 o'clock. That's it. Because caffeine has a long half-life. It takes a long time to break down. So it affects you much longer than anything else. Let me look at my time. All right, we're good. All right, so watch the sugar, watch the caffeine, and particularly when you partake of caffeine. For me, it's 3 o'clock. For you, maybe it's 3, 4 o'clock. But if you're having trouble sleeping, you may want to consider dialing back on the caffeine. Try something else. I know it's like boring to say drink water. Get you some cold water, take a walk, do something a little bit, moving around. For a lot of people, can help you energize as much as coffee. And you're like, no, you don't know, B. I'm just like, you don't know. It takes me 3 or 4 cups of coffee in the morning, 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And then, you know what? I just can't sleep at night. I wonder why. All right, so, God, I almost hate putting this stuff up here because I know you guys are looking at me like, this guy, man, he's coming in here telling me I can't do. He's taking out all my favorite stuff. It's like, what's left? No TV. I was like, are we grounded or something? God. Okay, alcohol. Some of you are like, look, you don't understand. You don't understand how alcohol works. Every night I knock back a sixer and I'm out like that. Okay, fair enough. Not exactly sleep. It's something like sleep. Passing out is not really sleep. It's similar, but the effects are not good, right? Let me put it to you this way. Those of you that are, some of you younger folks in here, what happens on the Friday night? You're out at the club, you're drinking your beverage of choice, having a few of them, and then you feel kind of tired. And you're tired, and you're like, I just need to sit down for a second, bro. Let me sit down. And you sit down for a second, and then you're all of a sudden like, woo, second win, bro, let's go. And you start, and it's a joke, but it's true. And the reason it's true is because what happens is alcohol metabolizes pretty quickly, and it is initially a depressant, so it kind of takes you down, mellows you out a little bit, but then as it begins to convert in your body, then all of a sudden it begins to wake you up. And this is why you pass out from your six pack or whatever, and then all of a sudden it's 5 o'clock and you're wide awake and you're like, I don't have to get up till 7, man, what's the deal? Because alcohol turns into a stimulant. So alcohol is not a good sleep aid. I think that's a good way to put it. Thank you. It's not a good sleep aid. Now, if you want to have your glass of wine to help mellow you out, go for it. That's great. But I'm just saying, if you're having trouble sleeping, these are things to try to cut back on. I'm giving you some tips here. See what happens. I know a lot of people that have cut back on a little bit of alcohol. They drink it earlier. If they're going to have maybe a glass of wine or something with dinner, they skip that late night alcohol and see what happens. Who knows, it may work for you. But alcohol is a stimulant or is a depressant that turns into a stimulant. Be careful with it. Nicotine, not so much of a problem with society in general. We're moving away from nicotine, or at least we're moving away from cigarettes. But now we've replaced those with, the vaporizers, whatever. We're not going to get into a discussion about the health aspects there, but I will tell you, it doesn't matter if you're chewing tobacco, if you're smoking, if you're using a vaporizer, it's still nicotine, and it's still a stimulant. That's the whole point, really, of nicotine, is it kind of gives you a little bit of a buzz, and it stays in your blood. So if you are smoking late at night, chances are that's going to contribute to the inability for you to have quality sleep. So watch the nicotine. Sodium, that's a weird one, right? You would be stunned if you've never looked at how much sodium is in everything. I have no problem cutting out any of these, but sodium is the hardest thing to cut out. Literally, it's in water, basically. It's like, well, it's a glass of water. How much sodium? Wow, 50 grams of sodium. It's crazy, okay? Work on the sodium. Sodium is, in general, we need sodium. It's an element that's supposed to be in our body. We're supposed to have it, but we are consuming 100 times the amount of sodium that we need. So try to cut back on sodium. This is good for your heart. It's also good for your sleep. Sodium does have some effect on sleep. Lastly, fat, and again, bummer. We're doing good in one department with fat, that we've moved away from trans fats, so that's cool. Saturated fats actually are pretty good for you. They're good for your brain. But an overabundance of fatty foods can cause us to have trouble with digestion, which could cause problems with sleep. So watch the fat, especially before bed. This more has to do with, like I said, the digestive side of things. So your body is struggling to process all this heavy food, this fat, and in doing so, it's keeping you awake. And this is something that, we joke about. What you eat causes you to stay up. That's one of the things it does. So eat this, or don't eat this, but let's talk about the stuff that we should have. And in order to do that, let me give you a little illustration here. There's an essential amino acid called tryptophan, which is really cool. Tryptophan is not naturally produced. In other words, we have to ingest tryptophan in the food that we eat, okay? Tryptophan is awesome because what it does is it turns into serotonin. Serotonin is the cheerleader of the body. And you can remember that because maybe her name is Sarah, right? So serotonin makes you happy. It makes you feel satisfied. And it makes you just feel good, right? But what serotonin actually does, so it does all that. So tryptophan produces serotonin. Serotonin actually creates melatonin. And you can think maybe this guy's name is Mel, and he's mellow, and so melatonin. That's how you can remember that, right? He's just kind of chilling there. Melatonin is the chemical that causes us to fall asleep. When our body, we have like a little melatonin meter sort of in our body, and when it fills up to a certain point, our body says, okay, we've got enough melatonin, time to go to sleep. And as we sleep, it's like an hourglass. That melatonin decreases, and when we run out of melatonin, that's when we wake up. It's a really cool little process that our body does. But Melatonin ultimately comes from tryptophan. So you got tryptophan, which is the amino acid. Serotonin is the hormone, turns into melatonin. So any food that has tryptophan, melatonin, or serotonin, well, it won't have serotonin in it, but mostly, but it will have tryptophan or melatonin. Any foods that have those, one or both of those, will help you fall asleep. They're great. Then we got this guy, B6. B6 is sort of the mechanic of the body. He makes sure everything's running correctly. Sleep is part of it. He kind of is the cable guy or whatever, but pretend he's more stable than most cable people that you know. So anything with B6 is good because it helps order everything in your body, makes you fall asleep correctly. So any foods that have tryptophan, melatonin, or B6, those are what you want more of, especially late at night. So what are we talking about? What are some good examples of food? How about more fish? Some people are, they're like, what do you call it, pescatarian, right? Where they're like, I don't eat any meat except fish. Hey, you're on the right path when it comes to sleep. Fish is great. Fish has all that stuff. Has B6, has a little tryptophan in it. It's good for you. Healthy, low fat. Fish is good. Eat you some sushi or something like that. Now we're talking about salmon. We're talking about tuna. We're talking about the fish that have less fat to begin with. So if you're, I'm not talking about getting you some fried fish or something like that, some like fried catfish or something. You're like, yeah, I'll just eat this. No, because then now we're back on the fat side of things, and we don't want to do that. So get you some lean fish. It's good for you. Yogurt is good. You know, the old wives' tale, I guess it's not a wives' tale. It's true. You know, what do you give little kids late at night? A little warm milk, help them go to sleep. Milk has some chemicals in it that'll automatically just kind of help you go to sleep. It's good for calcium. And actually, a calcium deprivation causes us to have sleep problems. So you want calcium. If you can't have yogurt or dairy, which is okay, then you need to supplement your calcium through, supplements. But yogurt's good, low fat. Whole grains are good. Whole grains, what about whole grain cereal? In fact, some people ask me, hey, what's a good late night snack? I say whole grain cereal with a little milk. That's a good late night snack. That's something that's got both of them. So it's got the calcium from the yogurt or from the milk, and then it's also got the whole grains, which are sort of slow burn energy. They're good for you, but they're not going to tweak you out immediately, cause you to stay awake, and they're good for you in general. Cherry juice. I like this one. This one was the biggest surprise. I was like, what do you mean cherry juice? You mean like, I didn't even know they made cherry juice. I was like, what do you mean, like the kind, like the maraschino cherry juice, like that stuff they put in drinks? No, not that. That's just sugar. Sometimes they call it tart cherry juice. It's got a lot of great stuff in it, actually, and one of the sort of natural homeopathic therapies for sleeplessness, insomnia, is to drink 2 glasses of tart cherry juice a couple hours before bed, and that will, for a lot of people, actually, statistically speaking, help you with your any kind of insomnia sleep disorder. So eat some cherries, not the sugary kind, but the natural ones. Get some cherry juice if you can. Walnuts are awesome. Walnuts are good for you. They're good for your brain. They've got essential fatty acids, and they've got tryptophan, and they've got melatonin. So they've already got both of the sleep chemicals built into them. So have you some cereal with a little milk and a little walnuts before you go to bed. Now you got you a good late night snack. And let's throw in some Thanksgiving turkey. We all know the whole joke about, Thanksgiving afternoon. We're watching the Cowboy game, hopefully. Yes, I'm a Cowboy fan. Sorry, Ryan. But, Uncle Jim has just eaten like a half of a turkey, and he's like passed out on the couch. Well, part of that has to do with the tryptophan. So it immediately converts from tryptophan to melatonin, and he's out. So turkey's good. So now what we could do a turkey sandwich, get some whole bread, whole grain bread, some turkey, and now we're doing good. Some good late night snacks there. And there's a bunch of other ones. Kale is really good. I've got a few more that I could send you if you want. You can email me. I'll send you some more foods. But there's a whole list of them. But for the sake of time, there's the top 6 right there. So try some of those. If you don't like them, I don't know, figure out a way to kind of mix them up a little bit. But in general, all of those are good if you've got some sleep issues. Some of you are like, look, Brandon, you don't understand. This is way deeper than eating walnuts. You're like, look, walnuts ain't going to help me because I've got an actual sleep disorder. So briefly, let's talk about what the big sleep disorders are and what we can do about them. Number one is insomnia. Something like 93% of people have experienced some kind of insomnia. There's either acute insomnia or there's chronic insomnia. Acute insomnia means it's based on your situation. It's based on something going on in your life. You're stressed. It will pass. You'll get better as time goes on once that issue is resolved in your life. But some people have chronic insomnia, which means they can't sleep ever. They sleep for an hour a night. They wake up and they just feel like just terrible. That's a whole different story. If you have chronic insomnia and it's beyond any of these little behavioral changes or any of this stuff that we've talked about, let's talk, because you may need to go see a specialist, and I could refer you to several sleep doctors if you want. We can help you out on the insomnia side. Restless leg syndrome is a little bit different. It's not technically a sleep disorder. It's a neurological issue. If you have it, it's really annoying. It's not going to kill you, but it is going to annoy you. It's going to cause you to not be able to sleep. It's this sort of prickly feeling in your legs where you feel like you just have to move. You have to get up and walk. It wakes you up. It's annoying. There are several different types of therapies for it, and none of them are terribly invasive. You don't have to have surgery or anything like that. There's some prescriptions that could help you with that if you need it. Also not going to kill you. So insomnia is not going to kill you. RLS is not going to kill you. Shift phase disorder is mostly for people who work at night. So most of you in here, since you're here, you're probably not going to work all night. This is for people like, paramedics, doctors, surgeons, people that work at night in hospitals, police, that sort of thing. They have problems because they're doing the exact opposite of what their body wants. They're sleeping when the sun is up, so it's throwing them off. Shift phase disorder is treated with light therapy. It's a real interesting kind of therapy. I won't go into it, but it's pretty cool. I wouldn't think any of you have that here today. Narcolepsy, we all laugh about it. Somebody just falls asleep while they're talking. Narcolepsy is not funny. It's a lot more than just falling asleep. It is having hypnagogic hallucinations. It is sleep paralysis, where you wake up and you can't move. It's really, really serious. The good news about narcolepsy is it only affects like 0.1% of the population. It's very, very rare. And chances are if you have it, you probably know you have it. If you've got any of those issues, if you have hallucinations, anything like that, talk to me, because you do need to get therapy for this. It doesn't go away on its own, okay? Chances are it's not going to kill you either, because you probably don't have it. So far the good news is you're not going to die of insomnia. Your body's going to fall asleep at some point. Restless legs, shift phase, narcolepsy, not going to kill you. Guess what will kill you, though, is obstructive sleep apnea. It actually is becoming one of those epidemic level issues. And I have a whole seminar just on this particular subject. I'm not going to do that today, but I will tell you, this is no joke. People die every day from having this particular issue. What it is a serious, potentially life-threatening condition in which breathing is paused or disrupted while you're sleeping. Here's what it looks like. Normal airway, we want to see this. We got air coming through the nose and the mouth. Sometimes we snore a little bit, we got a little bit of blockage. What sleep apnea looks like is this. So your airway completely closes. There is no air getting through your nose, your nasal passage, or your mouth, and your body is completely suffocated for a period of time. This can happen 30, 40, 50. I've heard of it happening over 100 times an hour for some people. And it is a type of suffocation. And it deprives your brain of oxygen. And talk about stress. This puts your body through a war every night. And if you have sleep apnea, there's a good chance that you don't know it, especially if you live alone. So what are some, when I'm talking about it, and if I sound a little bit concerned about this, it's because this is real. Your stroke risk goes up 300% if you have untreated apnea. Your heart failure risk goes up 238%. Your heart arrhythmia risk goes up 1,800%, so you're 18 times more likely to have irregular heartbeat because of the stress that's going on your heart while you're asleep. Your cancer risk goes up 65% for all cancers across the board. Accident risk goes up 70%. That number is pretty low, actually. It's probably a lot more than that. On-the-job death risk is 200%. You're twice as likely to die at work if you have sleep apnea. Nobody wants to die at work, okay? You don't want to be that guy that he died at his desk. At least he was working though, Bob. I know, it's not funny. And here's back to the money thing. If you have untreated sleep apnea, because of the comorbidities associated with it, you're spending about more than twice as much on medical bills a year because of something that you probably don't even know you have. So how do you know if you have it? Here's the deal. Here's what we look for in the sleep apnea world. We look for a high BMI. That's 25 or over. So if you have a BMI of 25 or over, you're at high risk for sleep apnea. Sorry, it's just a mechanical thing. It's time and gravity. That's all it is. It's the material in your neck pushing against the back of your throat. It doesn't matter if you are, quote, obese, if you're overweight, if you're an athlete, doesn't matter. You guys know Mike Napoli, baseball player, sleep apnea. Shaquille O'Neal, sleep apnea. Reggie White, he doesn't have sleep apnea because he died of sleep apnea. So, but yeah, these are athletes. I think something like 90% of NFL players have sleep apnea because they have so much muscle. So it's not a fat person thing, it's just a mass thing, okay? And as we get older, it's something that happens, it's something we need to deal with. High BMI is a big thing. Large neck size. 17 inches for men, 15 inches for women. That's actually the highest factor there. If we had just walked around this room and I just took out a tape measure and measured your necks, I could predict with probably 80 to 90% that you have sleep apnea just based on your neck size. It's that simple. It's a mechanical issue. If you ever stop breathing while you're asleep, if your wife or husband or significant other tells you that, hey man, it was weird last night, you just went, stop breathing, and all of a sudden, and then you started choking and you kind of made a weird sound, now we need to talk, because that is what sleep apnea is. It is when your body stops breathing, and then all of a sudden your brain is like, okay, we don't have any oxygen, let's go ahead and let's shake the body, wake them up. You wake up just enough to breathe, but not enough to be conscious. So it doesn't wake you up, but it'll wake up your partner. Snoring. Snoring can be sinus related, it can be allergy related, or it could be sleep apnea. So just because you snore doesn't necessarily mean you have sleep apnea, unless we're combining it with any of these other factors. Let's see what we got. Daytime fatigue. If you have sleep apnea, you are tired all the time because you're not sleeping well at night. You're not going into that REM sleep during the night. So during the daytime, you feel just off. Depression is real big for people that have sleep apnea. Very depressed because their chemicals are off. Their hormones are off. All that, the stress hormones we talked about, cortisol, your cortisol levels are all over the place. It's really bad. If you have high blood pressure, you have a 50-50 chance of having sleep apnea just right off the bat. Sorry. And if you have type 2 diabetes, you also have a 50-50 chance right off the bat. If you have high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes, congratulations, you've got like a 100% chance of having it. It's pretty bad. So those are the signs. Good news is there's quite a few things that can be done about it. There's CPAP therapy, which has come a long way. This is not your grandpa's CPAPs that we're talking about anymore. There's a new technology that's on the way that is a CPAP that is like the size of like this. It just fits on your nose. There's no tubes, there's no machine. Not ready for sale yet. It's on the way out. There's dental appliances, there's surgery if you want to go that route. But anyway, this is something that you need to deal with if you have got it. How do you deal with it? I go to areyousleepy.com. Great website. Yes, I happen to have designed it myself, but that's not why it's a great website. It actually will take you through a sleep quiz. It has a sleep analysis that you can answer some questions, and it'll show you kind of what your risk factors are for sleep apnea. And the best part about it is if you do score high for sleep apnea, the company that it's associated with can get you a home sleep test. So you don't have to go to a sleep lab and spend $4,000. This company can send you a home sleep test for a couple $100. Nice. And you mail it back in the mail. Bob's your uncle, you're good. And that'll show you if you really do have it. If you really do have it, we can take care of it. So that's on that side. Now, all this to say, you guys have been great today. This is my website, toofittofail.com. We cover everything. So we cover diet, we cover exercise, and we talk about sleep a little bit. And this is kind of my pitch. These are things that are not going to get better on their own. Your sleep is not going to just magically improve unless you do something about it. Your fitness is not going to improve unless you do something about it. Your diet is not going to improve unless you do something about it. And I read yesterday a great quote. It said there are 7 days in a week, and someday is not one of them.